Hi guys, happy live, happy Wednesday. Sorry, it's been a while. Thank you guys for tuning in. I was in Hawaii, so I apologize. I haven't been here the last few weeks. I'm going to do the normal, not in any specific order, but I'm going to do your guys' questions and answers, as well as real estate updates, as well as happy news. Okay? So I'm going to dive right into the first set of questions. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. Otherwise, I will just answer some that have come in throughout the week. And hopefully my dog is not too noisy during today's live. Again, I hope you guys are well and amazing and having a super week so far. So the first question comes from Stephanie, and Stephanie is in Barrie. Stephanie said, how long do you think it'll take me to get my credit to the high 800s? Thank you, Stephanie, for asking. I don't know. You didn't say what your current credit score is, so I don't know if it's 300 right now, if it's 500, if it's 680, etc. So it's kind of hard to say. And I also don't know what your spending habits are going to be from, now to that point, right? So obviously, if you're paying, let's just say your minimum is $10 a month and you're only putting $10 a month, that's going to take a long time. If you owe $5,000 on the card and you pay it off next week, then it's going to go down a lot faster. So it really just depends what you do. So I really can't answer that. I apologize. And I also don't know what it's starting at, but I'm glad that you're being aware of your credit score and you're trying to get it better. So that is great. So congratulations on that. And hopefully it gets you whatever you need in the end. But thank you for asking, Stephanie. So again, we're going to do some happy news, some questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, just ask them. Otherwise, I will answer some that came in throughout the week and some real estate updates, okay? And happy news, if I didn't say that already. So social media can obviously help some people out. So there was a fellow, and he has an extermination business. So he just shows basically like critters that he catches every day. And he has about $300,000 followers on TikTok. And he went into Walmart one day and he saw a gentleman working there, and he wasn't working there just for the fun of it, to get out of the house, etc. He's a widower and he had to work there. He couldn't afford not to work there. So this fellow that came in, this exterminator, said, hey, I'm going to make a video with you if that's okay. He posted it online. He put a GoFundMe, and within 3 days he had $108,000, and he was able to retire the 82-year-old man from Walmart. That is not the first time this has happened. There was another lady at Walmart once, and somebody started a GoFundMe for her. She was an elderly woman, and they had $175,000 they did for her before she could retire. So I like happy stories. So anyways, that was that. The next question comes from Debbie, and Debbie is in Aurora. So Debbie said, why can't the Bank of Canada see how poorly them raising the interest rate is affecting families? Thank you, Debbie, for asking. I'm sure they do know that. Unfortunately, sometimes people say they don't care. Sometimes people say it's just to, help with inflation, etc. So I don't think they're really thinking about families and so forth, which is unfortunate because obviously it does affect people a lot. I'll talk about it later in the real estate section. But for example, I had somebody call me today, and currently they're paying 2.39 and they're going to jump up to 5. I forget what he said, 5.4 something. And obviously that's more than double. So it's a crazy, payment. If you're used to paying $2,000 a month and now you're going to pay $4,000 or $4,200, etc. Not obviously feasible for a lot of families. So I don't think they care as much, unfortunately, about the families. But they're just trying to stop the inflation a little bit or put a little bit of a slow hold on it. But thank you for asking, and I'll talk about the real estate section later, okay? There was a man in England, and his daughter became very ill. And basically she was on dialysis 10 hours a day, and she had to get both of her kidneys removed. And so he signed up right away to see if he could, give one of his kidneys, but unfortunately it wasn't a match. And after a few months and 10 hours a day, she did get a match and got a kidney transplant and is luckily healthy now today. And for some reason, he thought, hey, I'm going to keep my name on the list, even though I'm not a match for my daughter. And then he just matched up with somebody the other day, a 70-year-old man. So he's very happy that he can help somebody, just like somebody helped his daughter. And I didn't know this, but actually over a third of people that give kidneys are actually live transplants. They're not, in a car accident or something like that. Sorry, somebody's calling me, so pressing decline there. But anyways, I just like happy stories. So that's that. There's another question from Jeanette. And Jeanette comes from Midland. Jeanette said, my mortgage is up in March and I want to move around Thanksgiving. What should I do regarding the renewal? Thank you, Jeanette, for asking. So, for example, you could just do a year and you could find out, let's just say you did a year variable and they say, okay, if you were to move in Thanksgiving, it's just 3 months interest, and they could give you an approximate idea right now. Or if you were on a fixed rate for a year, they could say, hey, this is what it would be approximately if you were to stop in around Thanksgiving, October, etc. Or you could just be in an open term. Open terms are going to have a higher interest rate, but then they're not going to cost you anything if you break it. So I would just find out, hey, it's going to be about $3,200. I just made up that number. Depending obviously on your mortgage size. Hey, it's going to be about $3,200 if you're in a variable to get out. It's going to be about $4,100 if you're in a fixed to get out, and it's going to be free if you're in an open to get out. However, you're going to be paying X amount more per month. So I just look at all your numbers and see what makes more sense for you. But thank you, Jeanette, for asking. I had one more happy news before real estate. So it's not happy that a man passed away, but a man passed away in Arkansas on January 5th. But the reason I like the story was because basically he had secretly been paying for people's medications for more than a decade. So he'd go into the pharmacy every month and he'd give them $100. And he'd say, if anybody can't pay for their meds, just say, hey, it comes from above, or it's whatever, under the table. I forget what he said his exact terming was. I think he said it comes from above. Just tell them, don't say my name, say it comes from above. And anyways, he was getting ill and he gave his granddaughter a bunch of money and asked her to keep the tradition going on. So I just like that because obviously I like happy news as opposed to negative news. So I like that. Anyways, I will jump into real estate. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will just ramble along. And thank you guys for voting us. We got the #1 real estate agency in Barrie again for the 4th year in a row. So thank you guys for that. And thank you for all of the encouragement for the motel that I just got. I know I got a lot of messages about that, some private and some online. So thank you guys for your encouragement. The people that live there are not as happy. The one fellow said, welcome to hell. And he said, I give you a week. So they're not as encouraging. But thank you guys for all your encouragement for that undertaking that I'm going about right now. So a lot of people are asking us what is happening with the market. Obviously, that's a really common question that we get. So was it last Wednesday or the Wednesday before? I'm mixing up days. I think it was last Wednesday was when the Bank of Canada put the interest rate up again, another 0.25. So now it's at 4.5. So it's gone up obviously once just in 2023. Obviously, it's the beginning of the year, and it did go up 7 times last year. So all of the economists are kind of all over the map. Originally, they were just saying, hey, spring of 2023 is going to be the lowest. Now there's a couple that are saying, hey, it's going to actually go till 2025. So now it depends which one you listen to. Some are saying it's going to be a quick turnaround like in 2017, and others are saying it's going to be like the early 90s and take 10, 12, 15 years, etc. to get back to the right pricing. So depending on which one you believe, they're all saying different things. So what else was I going to say about that? I said about the 2025. I can say specific names if you guys want, like Jean Petra from Dargen or whatever said it, but I usually just say an economist. So for example, one economist, he was the one that was saying till 2025. So most are saying the lowest of low in spring of 2023, but there was one economist that said it's going to continue to drop till 2025. He said on average it takes about 2 years before we see the effects of something. So what he's basically saying is all the interest rates that have gone up, whether we have one more at 0.25 or we're done with the interest hikes, he's saying it'll take about 2 years for it. So that's where he's getting the 2025 before we feel the final of it. And on average, they last about 4 years. In Canada, the 2 biggest ones were the early 80s and early 90s. So the one in the early 80s peaked in 81, and it was for about 4 years. And then, you couldn't see my 4th finger was down there, 4 years. And then the other one peaked in 89, but then it was about 7 years of decline. So he's the one that's more doom and gloom than the majority of them. And I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything like that. They are averaging, not averaging, forecasting an average decline, but nothing crazy. I'll tell you guys more in a little bit about like 64% up and so forth. So I just don't like when they say an average decline, because what is average? Like, what do they consider average? What's the average time for a decline? Is it 4 years like that guy said, 2 years? Is it like 2017 and it's just from spring to fall? I just don't like who defines average, as well as, time-wise, as well as pricing-wise. So that's something that I would like more clarification on. And obviously, again, it depends who you listen to and so forth. So I'm sure you've heard that homes are down since last spring. So for example, in March of 2022, the average sales price across Ontario, so not just Toronto, but across Ontario, the average sales price was $1.08 million. So $1,080,000 across Ontario, not just Toronto. We're used to Toronto hearing about $1 million, etc., but not across Ontario. So crazy, $1,080,000, and that was in March. So crazy. And that was up 64% over 2 years prior. So that's what I was saying about the 64%. So 64% is a crazy amount to jump in that 2 years. I remember the whole time I've been in real estate, some years it's 3, some years it's 5, some years it's 7, 8, etc. That's pretty much it. The odd time it would get to like 10 or 12, but pretty much it kind of teetered in that range. So to have 64% in 2 years is insanity. So it has fallen about 20%. So that was March of 2022, and it's fallen about 20% in Ontario since then. But when we consider, like, yes, 20% sounds like a lot, but when it's gone up 64% in 2 years, it's really not a lot because it's still up the 40 something percent. Okay. So basically it's taking us right now to about September 2021. So not pre-pandemic prices, we're about September 2021. So what else? The number of homes that are selling is down. So the average number of homes that are selling is actually around right now the mid 90s. So the same number of homes that we're selling. And I'll go again through more specifics in a little bit. One economist said that the bottom is definitely behind us. Another one said we will see a slight smaller slide down the scale, but not drastic. I did mention that the Bank of Canada did do the 1 this year and the 7 last year interest hikes. And again, it's out for discussion. Some say 1 more interest hike this year, some say no more, but they don't really know when it's going to go down. Like, yes, they're saying 1 or 0 more, but when is it going to go down? That's obviously what is on more people's minds, which we do not know yet. So obviously, supply and demand is something. So there's tons of millennials that are trying to get into the market. There's tons of people that, average age normally go into condos, etc. And they're saying, hey, I don't want to go into a condo. I'd rather just renovate my house or stay here or put in a granny suite for my kids to help me out or something like that. So they're not moving as much. So there's not as much inventory for people. And then obviously a lot of people remember the sales prices of 2022 of their neighbors in February, April, etc., March, and they're like, hey, my neighbor sold for 1.3, my home's nicer than theirs, why would I take $1 million now or $1.1 million? So a lot of people don't want to list their homes because they're not getting as much as what their neighbor got, so they're a little angry, so there's not as much supply. But I will tell you again about supply in a little bit because there was way more at the end of 2022 than there normally is. So supply is expected to change by the end of 2023, and the reason that is because of new builds. So a lot of new builds, construction and so forth is not going through because the price of contractors is up, the price of drywall and so forth is still high. And so the builders are saying, hey, there's not as much money as I thought I was going to make in this, or there's no money, or I'm losing money, etc. So as they pull out of projects, then there's not as much supply. So then the resale homes will have more people coming to them. So that's why they're thinking resupply at the end of the year. There won't be as many new builds, etc. as planned. So then the resales could go up in value. Again, depends which economist you talk to, but that is majority of them. So I know that we're in February, it's only February 1st, but stats are not out for January yet. We usually get them around like the 10th or 12th or so, but we do obviously have January stats, so I'll go over those in a little bit. It's obviously hard to go from like January 2022, where we had bidding wars anywhere from like 60,000 over, 300,000 over, 200,000 over, 500,000 over, etc., to this January where people are offering under asking, they're offering with conditions, etc. Whereas last year was like firm. You get 18 offers, 18 would be firm, maybe 1 would not be firm, but pretty much 18 would be firm. And now you're like, say it's listed for $699, you're getting an offer for $670, and it has conditional on the sale of a home. So it's a very different time, even though a year has only passed. And one other problem with, either people's interest rates are coming to renew, or their mortgages, I should say, or people sign contracts for new builds and now they can't get qualified. And so I just wanted to give you an example of that. So let's just say a person bought a home and they need a $700,000 mortgage. So they have some money to put down, but they need a $700,000 mortgage. So at 2.4, it's just over $4,000 a month. It's $4,118 to be exact at 2.4%. But if they're now paying 5.4%, it is $10,475 a month. So over $6,000 more a month, which is crazy. $6,357 if you want to be exact. And not only do they have to qualify for that $10,000 a month that they have to be able to cover and so forth, their debt to service ratio, but they also have to qualify for the 2% extra. Okay, so the 2% extra, like, hey, just in case the bank put it up more or whatever, you have to qualify at the stress test of the 2% more. On a side note, if you are having trouble and you're really close, a lot of credit unions don't make you do the 2% extra, just as an FYI. So in case you're close and you're really trying to get into a property, etc., try a credit union, okay? What else? So I've said it a couple times before. Remember that you're just dating your interest rate, but you're more married to the sales price. So yes, you might pay a higher interest rate for like 1, 2, 3, whatever years, but the actual sales price of your home, that's something kind of, not say you're stuck with, but that's your, 25-year kind of thing. So yes, you may buy a house for $1 million and it might go down to 850, but in the end, if you sell it for 1.3 or 1.5 because you've held on to it, obviously I'm not saying 25 years, I'm saying in 5, 6, 8 years, 10 years, etc., it's gone up. So as long as you don't sell it when it goes below the million, then you're fine, because it's not going to be long that it's in that time. So that is that. Just don't sell it when it goes down. Stay there for a bit. I had somebody the other day in Bradford, and they moved there from Brampton. They said, we really don't like it. We want to go back. But unfortunately, their neighbor just sold a similar model for $200,000 less than they bought it for last year. But to me, I would just stay there. Like, why not stay there? I don't want to lose $200,000. So you don't like it. I'm sure in time you'll make more friends. Your kids will make more friends, etc. I personally wouldn't want to lose the money, but that's just me. So what else? Some people are holding off until the fall because they're saying, hey, if the prices start to go up in the fall, then I'm just going to wait to sell my house till the fall. The one problem with that is if you're buying again, then it's going to be higher price that you're buying. And also some people have their mortgage and they can port it. So let's just say somebody still has that 2.4% mortgage. They can port it over to your place and then pay a little bit extra, however much their mortgage is going up. Whereas if you wait till the fall, maybe their mortgage is completely done and they're onto a new one and now they're paying that 5.4 or whatever the rate is at that time. So then they want to pay less because it's costing them more a month. So anyways, we just have to think of the bigger picture and not just, what things are selling for, or we just have to do the whole picture. I don't like a lot of people don't look at the whole picture. So look at the whole picture, make the decisions that's best for your family. And that's what I like, or you, whatever your scenario is. So when prices start to go up, where is going to be the first that goes up? And it is expected to be condos. And the reason that is because condos obviously are cheap. They are the lowest price point to get into, so you have the most competition. You have investors, you have first-time buyers, you have single-family income, you have people divorcing, you have retirees, etc., set pensions, and so forth. So you have more people in the condo realm, so therefore more competition. So they are expected to go up in price first once the lull happens. The Bank of Canada did say that they were near the end of their tightening schedule. They have not said when they're going to bring it down, unfortunately, but they said near the end. So hopefully it starts to come down soon. And almost 70% of Canada is actually in a balanced market right now. A lot of people think, oh, it's a buyer's market, which it's actually not. It's just because it was such an extreme seller's market. So people assume because it's quite opposite of that, they think, oh, it must be the opposite of a seller's market. It's a buyer's market, but it's actually not. It's just kind of back to normal. Again, you can put conditions, finance, inspection. You can offer under asking and so forth, maybe the sale of your house, etc. And again, almost 70% of Canada is an even level market. Okay. I forget if it was 2 weeks ago or maybe it wasn't. I was talking to somebody about an economist said even Steven market. And basically he's saying, yes, we're seeing lower prices, but because of the higher interest rates, people aren't noticing it. So yes, they got their home for X amount less, 125,000 less than their neighbor bought for, etc. But because their interest rates are higher, they're not seeing a different monthly payment. So that is that. Okay, so I'll do numbers locally. So basically in December, again, we don't have January's yet. So if we look at Simcoe as a whole, there were 243 sales in December. So that is down from 2021's December, and it's down by 39.1%. So not the average sales price, but the number of homes selling, okay, was down 39.1%. And if we look at the prices, the average home sold is $801,017 to be exact, $801,801 to be easier, and that was down 7.9% from the year prior, which was $869,320. Okay, so that again was looking at the 2 Decembers in Simcoe County. So remember though that the average is up 64% from the beginning of March, basically of the beginning of the pandemic to that March, so up 64. So even if it goes down 7.9, that's really not a big deal since it's gone up such a crazy amount. And on average, in December 2021, the average days on market was 14, and now it is 40, so it has more than doubled. And also, they averaged in December of 2021, 107.8% basically of what they sold for. So selling over asking, 107.8%. And now they're under asking, 95.7% to be exact, is what the average is that they're selling for. And that's again in Simcoe County. And if we just look at Barrie and not all of Simcoe, there were 49.3% less homes sold from December 2022 versus December 2021. And the average sales price dropped more in Barrie than it did in Simcoe. So in Barrie, it dropped 17.1%. So it dropped from 854 to 708. Again, I don't do the other numbers just for easy sake. So 854,000 was the average sales price. Now the average sales price is around 708,000. Okay. Now, if you're wondering styles and you say, hey, I have a detached house or I have a condo or what have you, you know, how much has my house gone down or what can I expect from it? So detached homes in Simcoe County, to give you an idea, in December, we're averaging 869,000 and change, but I just leave it out for easy sake. So 869,000, which was down 9.7%, and the average days on market is 41. Now, if you were having a semi-detached home, so basically two homes together, not a townhome, which is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., but just two side by side, so a semi-detached. So the average price for that was 627,000 in 2022, not 2022, December. I lied. And that was down 17.4%. And the average days on market was 56 for a semi-detached home. Now, looking at a townhome again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., they're averaging 625,000, which was also down. It was down 13.4%, and their average days on market is now 30. And if you're looking at a condo, they mush condos and apartments together, just an FYI. And the average sales price is 633,000 and change, and that is down 10.3%. And the average days on market before it sells is 37. When we look at the December sales and we compare it on average to the 5-year average and the 10-year average of the number of homes selling, so the 5-year average is down 22.2% compared to what normally sells, and the 10-year average is down 19.3%. Okay. Again, I just like to give you guys all of the numbers. If you have to rewatch this, it is fine. Or if you need me to send you a printout of this, we have lots of that stuff as well. Okay. Now, to be honest, still about 8 out of 10 of our clients are leaving the province. And of those, I'd say 3/4 are staying in Canada. Some going to Alberta, etc. Some going to Halifax, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, PEI, and so forth. So the dollar homes in December the dollar amount of homes sold in Simcoe County in December was $152.8 million, which sounds like a lot, but it was actually down 34.5% over December of 2021. So again, not the average sales price, but the number of homes sold. That's not true. Not the number of homes sold, the amount. So if a home sold for $1 million, etc. So I'm just going to say that again. $152.8 million was then the amount of homes sold, and that was down 34.5% over 2021. Okay. There were 20.7% more active listings on New Year's Eve of 2022 versus New Year's Eve of 2021. And a probable, explanation to that is, one, people hear the market's going to go down, so they would rather list their house before it goes down more. 2, some people can't afford it because the interest rates have gone up. And 3, a lot of people are leaving the province. So those are the 3 main things that we are coming across. Now, in Barrie, I just wanted to give you, again, some more stats. So in Barrie in 2022, for detached homes, there were 1,354 homes that sold. And compared to 2021, that was 37.5% less. For semi-detached homes, there were 87 sold, which was 45.3% less than 2021. Townhomes, 313 homes sold in Barrie in 2022, which was down 35.5% over 2021. And 323 condos sold, which was also down, as you can guess. And that was 30.5% less condos sold in 2022 versus 2021. So all of the properties that were listed in Simcoe County, of all of the properties that were listed, I'm just going to give you the breakdown of how many sold, how many expired, how many suspended, etc. So almost 30% sold, 29.7% sold, but I remember markets where 44% sold, etc. So 29.7% of the homes sold, 16.7 suspended, 20.6 expired, so basically a fifth of them expired, and 33% canceled. So canceled versus expired just means they let them go the whole term. So let's just say it was 3 months or 4 months, etc. They just went the whole term, whereas canceled, somebody's like, screw this, I'm canceling before the end of my 3 months or whatever. So that's what that means. So I did mention, the 20% dip that has happened since March of 2022. However, the Prairies did not feel that dip, nor did Halifax. So the Prairies only went down 6%. And what else was I going to say? The basically the average across Canada for 2023 is expected to go down 10.7%. However, if we do individual provinces, Alberta is only supposed to go down 7.8, and the only thing that's supposed to go down less than that is Newfoundland. So there's that. And Ontario is supposed to be the second worst, and BC is supposed to be the worst at 11.4. So the average sales price in Canada at the end of 2023 is supposed to be around $662,000. Okay. So the next question comes from Paul, and Paul is in Barrie. Paul said, I'm splitting up from my wife. Do I have any options to stay in our house, or do I have to sell it? Thank you, Paul, for asking. You obviously, both have, assuming both your and your wife's name is on title. So, she'd have to sign off, but you could, sell it, but you could keep it, but she'd obviously have to be bought out. So for easy numbers sake, let's just say you have no mortgage and it's worth $1 million. You'd obviously have to buy her out for $500,000. So if you have $500,000 in your bank account, awesome. And if you don't, you could refinance the house, get a mortgage on it for $500,000 to buy her out. But if you don't have the money to buy her out, unless you guys figure something out, over 20 years, I'm going to pay you X amount or something like that. Obviously for marriage, you have to give half. So I don't know if it's in her name or your name or what have you, but just for general sake, that would be an easy thing. If you can afford to buy her out, then you can stay there. And if you can't, then unfortunately, I think you would have to sell it. But thank you for asking. Sorry you're going through that, but I'm sure in the end you can look back and know it was the right thing that was done. Some more happy news. There's a street vet, but a fellow in LA. And for 7 years, he's basically just been a veterinarian, and he just helps people that are homeless, their dogs and cats, etc. So he helped over 600 cats last year, not counting dogs as well. And then 1 year, he actually had a TV show. It didn't go to a second year, but it got a lot of recognition. So let's just say IMS or some, dog food thingies, whatever, I can't even think of the word, companies, they donated. So they're like, hey, here's food, here's flea and tick medication, here's this, here's that. And he also sets up not events, but pop-up things. So he'll spay and neuter the dogs and cats and so forth of these homeless people. So I just thought that was neat. And then also he does, financial assistance for people that they need something else. So let's just say it needs kidney surgery or it needs chemo or something like that. He does stuff like that. So I like happy news. So I like that vet. Now, next question comes from Matt, and Matt is in Oro. Matt said, I heard you bought a motel. Congrats. How, if anything, does that vary from running an Airbnb, and is it harder to finance? Thank you, Matt, for asking. So obviously, like an Airbnb, yes, they're coming for maybe 1 night, maybe 2 nights. Same with a motel. Currently, the motel I bought is rented long-term, so it's more like an apartment building. But obviously, with a motel, it could just be rented by night. For financing, it is harder. It's a commercial property, so you have HST potential, and then more money down just because it is commercial. But also, if you want to know specifics for a motel, they do like chains. So like Super 8, Budget, I don't know what they're all called. Not to say Marriott, that's a hotel, but you know what I mean? They like that kind of thing. Franchises, etc. They don't like just a one-off motel. So it is harder to finance. And then obviously just motel-wise, as opposed to Airbnb, most people coming to an Airbnb, they're coming like with their family and so forth, whereas a motel is kind of more people just stopping on the highway, I guess. My motel is not on the highway, but I will let you know because it hasn't been that long. So I'll let you know in the future. Hi, Margie. How are you? Happy New Year. Let's see what other happy news I have. So most people never run a marathon. I've never ran a marathon, never run a half marathon, never ran 5 kilometers. But there is a fellow, and where am I here? He did run a marathon every single day, actually, for all of 2022. His name's Gary. He's from England, and he just finished on New Year's Eve. So he ran over 9,500 miles, which is equivalent to 15,300 kilometers, which basically means he went across the states 3 times, which is crazy. He went through 20 pairs of running shoes, and he raised $1.65 million for a cancer, what was it called? A cancer support center and a hospice. So he also worked a full-time job, by the way. So he'd work every day, and then he'd run 4 to 6 hours, whatever, at night, every single day for 365 days. So if he can do it, he was in his late 50s, so then you can do it too. Next question is from Melissa and Steve, and Melissa and Steve are in Huntsville. They said, what's the biggest design trend you're seeing right now? We're only asking because we're building. Thank you, Melissa and Steve, for asking. Just on like a straight, easy answer would be archways. We're seeing lots of archways, archways into kitchens, archways into living rooms, archways into showers, archways into walk-in closets, etc. That is the main thing. If I just had to say one thing that we're seeing is archways. So lots of archways. Thank you for asking. I can, send you tile samples, etc. If you want to reach out to me later, I can do that for you. And then there was a lady, and basically she said her secret to her long life. She's 101, and she said dancing. So she's a dance teacher. She dances every single day and teaches. She said she's going to keep dancing until they take her out in a box. She said you'll never see her reading or anything like that. She's always dancing, says it's good for her joints and her muscles. And I just thought it was cute, obviously, because she maybe looks 75, but she's 101. So I always like happy people and optimism and so forth. So anyways, thank you guys for popping in. Sorry again, I missed a few weeks. And any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a super evening and stay kind to one another. Take care. Bye-bye.